Hello and welcome to the Hoops and Hot Takes podcast. This is our first episode, so welcome. Uh, Today, on our agenda, we just want to talk a little bit about each of the conference finals, just like for a few minutes, mainly like the Tom Thibodeau firing, and then we'll go into our finals predictions and preview. And finally, we will have a debate topic, which we will talk about later. So first, just any like thoughts on each playoff series, like conference final series. I can start. I think that, you know, this Thunder defense is actually kind of crazy. Like, Julius Randle just like saved his like playoff image by like having two great series against the Lakers and the Warriors, and then the Thunder kind of just took all that and just flushed it down the toilet. And like Julius Randle is back to being like a playoff, just like disgusting playoff performances. So yeah, I think like this Thunder defense just like absolutely insane. You guys?
Yeah, I agree with that. I think the Thunders really have that, the ability to lock down the star player on their team. When they were playing against the Nuggets, they were able to have like Alex Caruso, Lou Dort on Jokic, and that really messed up their offense. So I think going into the finals with them, they definitely have an edge over the Pacers when it comes to locking down the star player.
Yeah, yeah,
Mm.
that's for sure. Any thoughts on the Tom Thibodeau firing? I think
Actually,
that yeah,
actually, before we talk about Tom Thibodeau, I'll actually just say that the Western Conference Finals, I don't think um, it was surprising. The results were surprising to anyone. Going into it, it was pretty clear that Thunder were favored. And, we all know that the Rio Conference Finals was Nuggets Clippers, or maybe Nuggets Thunder, one of those two series. And it's
okay, bro,
unfortunate.
okay, bro.
And it's unfortunate that the best player in the world was unable to make the conference finals. But yeah, we can talk about Tom Thibodeau now.
Okay, what do you guys think about the Tom Thibodeau firing? Personally, like, I think it's very easy to justify this firing. I think that in the long run, it might be the right thing to do. However, in general, I think that it was like a cover by Leon Rose to keep his job. Like I think just like it's just Leon Rose trying to justify to the owners, hey, it's this guy's fault, not my fault. I did a good job building the roster. Which honestly, I think that if you fire Tibbs, Leon Rose should probably also be on his way out.
Hmm.
That's if I was the ownership, that's how I would do it.
Yeah, I remember us reading about like how the reason they fired him is because of how he allocates the playing time, And like and I remember back in like March, Mikal Bridges talked about how like there's multiple players on the bench that could contribute to the court, but they were just weren't getting opportunities. So, but I think that did change when it comes to the series against the Pacers because
Hmm.
they ended up running an 8-man, 9-man rotation against them. So I
Yeah.
think if we're just talking about that, then Tibbs did make the adjustments.
Well, I think that's the issue though. Like he's like trying to develop a bench in the conference finals, and that's just not going to work.
Right,
Mm.
right, right.
Yeah. So I think like I think all three of us would agree it's like it's a justifiable firing, but like
Mm.
we
I
don't we
don't
don't
It's
know.
like
pretty
the way
interesting too
I don't
because
like the way it was done, but I think it's
yeah,
justifiable.
it's interesting
Cause
because
yeah,
Cat's been part of like both times that he got fired. That
yeah,
Tibbs got
yeah.
fired back in Timberwolves and on the Knicks. It's pretty interesting.
Yeah. All right.
Well,
So now let's get in, or are we ready to get into our finals previews?
no, no, no. Considering the current state of affairs in the NBA, and the head coaching scenery, it's not too surprising that Tom Thibodeau got fired. It's a little unfortunate that a league like the NBA has such, I guess, no, um, no like nobody's safe. Um, you saw like Michael Malone won an NBA championship 2 years ago, fired. Mike Brown, coach of the year, fired. Um, so it's just interesting to see that that's how the NBA coaching
Yeah.
business is. Yeah.
Honestly, like let's just not even sugarcoat it. The NBA coaching carousel is actually a joke. Like like you cannot be underestimating the importance of continuity. Like the
Mhm.
Pacers this year, they basically made no changes, just brought everyone back and just let continuity develop chemistry. And like you saw how they have gotten like sure, they might not win a finals game. Okay? That is possible. But like you cannot say that this year's Pacers team is not better than last year's Pacers team. Like continuity has shown itself. Same with the Thunder. Both teams have kept their coach in a relatively same core, and it has like shown to like with great progress from both teams. Like, you can't just be overreacting like this all the time. This is why New York franchises lack success because there's always has to have this media that's always overreacting and these dumb owners that are always listening to the media and forcing their front office to make these dumb moves that ruin continuity and chemistry.
Okay. All right, let's move on.
Okay, okay. All right. So I guess Carson, we can start with you. What is your predictions for this NBA Finals?
Do we just want like who's the winner and in how many games? I'd
Yeah,
say I
and then
have
maybe share like some thoughts and like keys to victory for each team.
okay. I guess first we can each share who we have winning and in how many games. I have
Okay.
the Thunder obviously winning. I'd say Thunder in 6 games. No.
I have Thunder also in six.
Really, I think Thunder's gonna win it at 5.
Okay. I actually thought that this is actually very interesting. I thought both of you guys would have Thunder in five, and I would be the very optimistic guy, Thunder in six. Because like just based off of like actual like basketball, like bias aside, I think it's probably Thunder in five. Obviously, I'm still gonna be rooting for the Pacers to win, but like, uh, I I do think Pacers can make it six. I think actually, if it goes to 7 games, I think Pacers will win Game Seven. Unfortunately, I don't think the series is making it that far. But if it does get to 7 games, I do think Pacers will take Game Seven.
Yeah. Before we talk about that, we can like take a little look at their matchup over the regular season. The first matchup. I mean, the Thunders won both of their matchups, but for the
Yeah.
first matchup, the Thunders were actually down 22-7, and but ended up coming back 120 to 114.
Hmm.
Um, and in that game, it was Halliburton's like one of the quietest games in the season. He just had 4 points on like 2 for 6. He did have like 8 assists and 1 turnover when he played like 35 minutes. And in that game, like the Steelers really just put Lou Dort and Carson Wallace just to shadow him all over the court. And that forced him to play off
Mhm.
ball, but it also gave Nembar the opportunity to take these clutch shots. And he ended with like 23 points, 9 rebounds, 7 assists. And for the second matchup, really, it wasn't even a close game at all, actually. It was a blowout where like 3 minutes before the second half, the Thunder went on a 20-5 run, and that pretty much called the game. And they never really came back at all in the second half. So I think
Yeah,
just looking at the regular season matchups, um, Pacers don't really match up well against them, and a big thing to notice is that Chet Holmgren did not play in either of those games,
Yeah.
and Thunder were able to take them easily. So
well,
I guess
here's
he
what
could be the X
I would
factor.
say. Here's what I would say. I definitely like the Chet not playing is a huge part, but I also think like the first game we kind of just have to scratch that game because it was like any game, like the Pacers started 10 and 15, right? Not a great start, but after January 1st, everybody got healthy and they kind of got it going. I think that's like when like this iteration of the Pacers starts. Like the 2024 Pacers are kind of just like a different team and they just don't play the same. Like so like Aaron Nesmith, I don't think played in that game. I think Benedict Mathurin started and he might have been the leading scorer uh for the Pacers. Like that's just not the same team, right? And like obviously, yeah, Chet is gonna make this a lot harder for the Pacers, but I just don't think like either of the regular season games can be taken that seriously. I think more importantly, we should be looking at the previous playoff series, which also just doesn't look very good for the Pacers because like as I talked about earlier, uh the Thunder defense has just been embarrassing stars. Like just like total embarrassment. Like Jokic has not had three bad games in the playoffs like he did against the Thunder, like ever. Like those are probably his three worst playoff games since
Mhm.
he became like a superstar, right? Same thing with like Desmond Bain. I forget which game it was. Like I think he went like 1 for 13 from the field and had four turnovers, right? And same with Ant and Julius Randle the entire series, just like getting embarrassed by this defense, right? And this is very dangerous for the Pacers because sometimes Halliburton doesn't really need a good defense to be embarrassed. He will embarrass himself. He will go out there and give you these egregious, like 1 for 10 from three performances where he gets like 6 assists and like has like 5 points and just does not enter the 3 point line at all. Like he will do this to himself. And you add like Lou Dort and Alex Caruso, like there is a chance that in some of these games, Halliburton is just gonna like the game is gonna start and Halliburton will just fold immediately. And if that happens, the Pacers are going to get swept. Like if Halliburton just folds under the pressure, there's no chance that the Pacers are gonna win. Simply no chance at all. So I guess I'll share my keys first. I think the Pacers need to play very fast, like extremely, extremely fast. They need to like Pacers already like have the highest tempo in the league. They need to raise that to another level because the OKC defense is not one that you can allow to get set and attack in the half court. They're just too good for that. You need to beat them before they get set. Secondly, OKC generates an absurd amount of turnovers, right? Like in some games, they're giving teams so much trouble that they're struggling to get the ball up the court, right? If Indiana is struggling to get the ball to half court, again, getting swept, not a chance. And also, the Thunder make it very difficult to pass it inside the 3 point line. Like when there's a mismatch, you have a big on one of their guards, you need to be able to get that big the ball. Otherwise, you have no chance of scoring in the half court. What about you guys? What are your keys to victory for the Pacers?
Well,
For me,
actually,
for the Pacers, oh, I can go
no, no,
first. All right,
Ryan,
for
Ryan,
me,
go.
I think for the keys for the Pacers is really just getting into the paint because Halliburton averaged like 10.8 drives per game. I found this in the regular season and 11.8 drives in the first three rounds of playoffs. But in two regular games against OKC this season, he only had like six trips to inside the paint. So I think like just being aggressive on offense for Halliburton, especially because he really has those on and off games. He can either score like 20 something points or he scores 4 points. So I think being
Yeah.
consistent on the scoring aspect, because when it comes to distributing the ball, he's pretty consistent on that. At least seven, 8 assists a game for sure. But
Hmm.
when it also, but for the Thunder's defense, they really packed the paint well. So without Halliburton like trying to break into the defense, there's not going to be any open shots possible for anyone on the outside of
Hmm.
for the rest of this team. So I think being aggressive and getting into paint is important for the Pacers, but also they have to take care of the ball really well because the Thunders lead the league in points off steals, and they averaged 10.6 steals per 100 possessions, and that's the most in the last 26 years, and they have like 130 points per like 100 possessions off steal. So they really need to take care of the ball because they're both a really fast-paced team, but Thunders really live off of those transition and points off turnovers.
Yeah.
I 100% agree with Ryan. Those two things that he emphasized would also be the two main things that I would say the Pacers need to do well. Number one, not turn over the ball. Number two, be aggressive, in the paint. And I think the Pacers match up surprisingly well, to the Thunder in those two aspects, at least compared to, the Thunder, previous matchups. If we look at some of the previous series that the Thunder played, round one, Grizzlies, I think the series is actually closer than most people remember. Um,
Hmm.
there was one game the Grizzlies were up by like nearly 40. Ja got injured. Grizzlies kind of just fell apart. The Thunder won.
Right.
And even though they won in 5 games, the series could have gone to six, maybe even seven, right? And this is a
The
Grizzlies team
Grizzlies
that,
got swept. The Grizzlies got
uh,
swept.
the Grizzlies got swept. Well, if they won that game, right? I think they could have won like a game or two, right? And I think it's the Grizzlies, no one had them to be like
Hmm.
a very formidable roster, right? And the fact that they did give the Thunder a little bit of a problem, I think is a little bit of a sign that the Thunder are in fact beatable. And in the second round against the Nuggets came off a 7 game series with the Clippers. Michael Porter Jr. played without one shoulder, right? His shooting shoulder, in fact. Aaron Gordon injured his hamstring game 6, game 7. He was playing with that injured hamstring. Russ was also injured, right? And the Nuggets took them to 7 games. With game 4 and game 5, the Nuggets up in the fourth quarter in position to beat the Thunder and possibly eliminate them as well.
Right.
So yeah, and then we talk about with the Nuggets, a very important part about the offense is that when Jokic gets harassed in the post, he likes to kick it out to shooters like Michael Porter Jr., like Jamal. Michael Porter Jr., his number one role on the Denver Nuggets offense is that he's the best shooter on the team. The fact that he played without his shooting shoulder and the fact that he basically was non-existent in that series severely hindered the Nuggets, right? Thunder still won. Conference Finals, Thunder versus Timberwolves. It was very clear that the Timberwolves lacked ball handlers, playmaking from point guard. Mike Conley was not able to play very well against the Thunder, suffocating defense, really fast to get you in transition, right? And then this is where I think the Pacers do very well. Tyrese Halliburton is one of the best point guards in the league and possibly the best at not turning over the ball. His assist to turnover ratio is absurd. It's probably the best among star players. So that is an issue that is solved that the Thunder did not face previously. The Pacers have good shooting. Nembhard, Nesmith both have improved their shooting this season. Siakam is a capable three-point shooter. Turner is a capable three-point shooter. Additionally, Nembhard and Nesmith are relatively big for big and lengthy for wing players. They're able to finish. And so I think the Pacers are able to score in so many different ways and they're efficient. They don't need to be in a set offense to score easily, but they can also in a set offense they're able to pick apart pretty much any team. And so I think the Pacers do have a better chance than we're giving them just because they don't have these like flashy players. We like to write them off, but there's a reason why they're in the finals. And
Mhm.
yeah,
Right. One thing I do have to say to add on to all of these points is that I think bench play is going to be very important because both teams rely heavily on their benches, and there will be times where it will just be like bench players against bench players, maybe like one or two starters on each team. And I think if the Pacers want to win, they need to have the best bench, and that starts with Benedict Mathurin being the best bench player on either team. And that's going to be really hard because uh, the Thunder are probably going to be having Caruso come off the bench. And if he doesn't, then it's going to be Hartenstein coming off the bench. So basically, Mathurin's going to have to be better than one of them if the Pacers want to win, right? Because he is I think like by minute by minute, he's the best scorer on the Pacers team. I think per 48 minutes, he averages 26 points, and that's highest among Pacers, right? So like we're going to need that if we want even a chance to win this game because he is probably our second best half court scorer behind Siakam, and he draws a lot of fouls. And if we want to have a chance if the Pacers want to have a chance at beating the Thunder, they're kind of going to need to like get to the line somehow.
Yeah, but also
Now, I
interesting
think
fact I saw online a couple days ago,
mhm,
the last time the Thunders has lost to a Eastern Conference team at home was actually against the Pacers, but that was actually last season. And
yeah,
they both had completely different lineups. I mean, for the Thunders, they had a completely different lineup. They had Josh Giddey and Gordon Hayward at that time, but for the Pacers, they pretty much had the same team, But and for them to win that game, it might not speak much to the series now because of the additions of they had like Hart and Alex Caruso on the Thunders now, but in that game, really everyone showed up for the Pacers. They had 6 players scoring double digits. Um, and it was pretty like evenly distributed game. Everyone had a good night, decent night, and that was the only way for them to play against to be competitive against the Thunders because last season too, Thunders were had the second best record in the league, and for them to be able to have a win over them by a pretty big margin of 10, I think around 10 points, really gives them an insight into how they can potentially stay competitive in the series now in the finals.
Hmm. Yeah. Actually, I want to talk a little bit about the Thunder because I think Thunder, like in the past few series, has been playing a lot of double big lineups. And I think that if they try to run double big, the Pacers are going to run them off the floor. So like I just think that uh, Isaiah Hartenstein's minutes are going to be a lot lower than previous series, just because if he's on the court with Chet, the Thunder are not going to be able to keep up with the Pacers' pace. So I think a very important part for the Thunder actually is that Chet needs to be playing like a star in this league, right? If he gives us some of the performances that he had against the Grizzlies and the Thunder, the Pacers can really take advantage inside against the Thunder. Like he's going to have to be averaging like 18 points, 10 rebounds, and like 3 blocks. That's like the Chet Holmgren that the Thunder are going to need if they want to like take care of business, right? Because obviously, like we all agree that Thunder are the better team, but if they don't show up, like this is not like better to the point where like only like one or two people need to show up and you can still easily win. Like Thunder are going to need to show up to beat the Pacers. The Pacers are still good; they're in the finals for a reason, right? And also, I think the Thunder have had stretches where like the role players have just shot awfully, and if they're not shooting well, the Pacers can really run away with games because the Pacers are, I think, the best field goal percentage, 3 point percentage, and open three percentage. Like they're shooting the highest from those three in like the playoffs so far. So if the Thunder can't like match that at all, like they're not even close to matching the field goal percentages, then I think it can get very dangerous for the Thunder.
Let's actually talk about the matchup. What do you think the matchup is going to be for starting lineup for the Thunders and the Pacers this game, at least in game one?
So I think like on Shea, ideally you would want Neesmith, but then that would leave Nemhard on Jalen Williams probably, and I just don't like that matchup as much. So I would put Nemhard on Shea and then Neesmith on Jalen Williams, and then you can just easily switch those two if you think those things something's going wrong there, just like easily you can switch those two. That's not a big deal. And then I would have Siakam on Chet, and then depending on if they're starting Caruso or Hartenstein, if they're starting Hartenstein, then I would put Turner on Hartenstein and uh, Halliburton on Dort. If they're starting Caruso, then I would have Halliburton on Caruso and Turner on Dort. And then the others, Pacers on offense, obviously would be Dort. Well, if they start Caruso, I would actually have uh, Caruso on Halliburton, and then I would put obviously Chet is going to be on Turner, and then Jalen Williams onto Siakam, and then so if Hartenstein starts, then Hartenstein on Neesmith and Dort on Halliburton. But then if Caruso starts, then Caruso on Halliburton, Dort on uh, Neesmith, and then no matter what, I would have Shea on Nemhard.
I think one thing we don't talk about enough is Nembhard on defense. We saw that in last series when he was guarding Brunson. He was so
Mhm.
frustrating for Brunson to play against. He was headbutting him in the last game. So I think that's something that
Whoa,
we can
whoa,
talk
whoa,
about how,
whoa. Yeah,
yeah.
actually, we do need to talk about that because that didn't happen until the last game, right? If we look at like throughout their careers, Brunson kind of owns Nemhard. That was probably the only game of that matchup where Nemhard has beaten Brunson. There's a reason why, like the entire series, Neesmith was on Brunson, because like Nemhard, like cannot guard like these like Brunson's just too strong for Nemhard, and I think that might end up being the case for SGA as well. So I
Yeah, he's
think they
also a
might,
lot shorter. He's also a lot
yeah,
shorter for sure.
right.
But also the defensive habits of the Neesmiths isn't that great because when they try not to switch on the screens and more than half the time he gets the foul here and there. So he's always in foul trouble when he was
Yeah,
guarding playing against the Knicks. So that's something that definitely needs to be changed when they're playing against the Thunders where they have one of the best foul baiters in the league handling the ball. And if you
yep,
have him on him, he's gonna go through hell for sure.
yeah. And I think in this series, like we're gonna be seeing a lot of like, and I really hope I don't have to see this, but like Ben Shepherd is going to be on Shea, and it could get very ugly. It could get very ugly.
Yeah, in the regular season, in both their matchups, Nemhard guarded Shea. Shea had 36 in one game. He had 45 in the other game. So that is something to
Yeah.
note. Yeah.
But also the first game, I don't think Neesmith was available, right? So I think that's also a factor.
Matherin started that game over. Yeah.
Yeah,
Instead of Neeson. So
I
because
think
I
it's
don't think
important
Neesmith played.
for Turner to play drop coverage on this because he can't be giving Shea the leisure to just take it to the rim,
Hmm.
right? So I think for him being his size, like just sitting in the paint could really be at least somewhat challenging for Shea. But Shea again is the best mid-range shooter right now in the league, so it's going to be a trouble for them on defense.
Yeah. Also, I think there's a case to be made that Turner should be playing a lot less minutes. Basically, if Hartenstein goes off and they're playing Chet at center, I think there is a case to be made that the Pacers should bench Turner and put in Toppin
mm.
and just go small.
Yeah, I think both teams have been pretty flexible with their lineups. They play really according to the situation.
Hmm.
For the Thunders, they bench Hartenstein in the series before. And for the Pacers, they close out many games with Obi Toppin over Miles Turner. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. And like just a message to Rick Carlisle. Please, please do not play Thomas Bryant. Please do not play Thomas Bryant. I'll say it one more time. Please do not play Thomas Bryant. If you play Thomas Bryant, the game is over.
Lakers legend.
Like Thomas Bryant, I love Thomas Bryant. I was very happy when we traded for him. This is not the series where he should be getting playing time. He could prove me wrong, but just like as of right now, I do not see this as the series where he should be getting playing time.
Yeah. Thunders move really fast. I'm pretty sure he cannot catch up to that.
Yeah. Like he's going to be getting cooked on offense and defense because I think out of all of our players that get like rotational minutes, he's by far the loosest with the basketball. And if the Thunder are hunting for turnovers, they're going to be off of him.
Yeah.
Yeah, another thing to note, I think it's so imperative that the Pacers don't turn over the ball because that's how the Thunder get a lot of their offense. If you look at their role players, Caruso, Dort,
Hmm.
um, Aaron Wiggins, Casey Wallace, Isaiah Joe, these are five of their most crucial role players. All of them
Right.
get their points off um, 3-point shots, usually in like the corner and the wing, and then fast break transition points. And if you take away their transition points, these guys are basically just shooters on offense, right? And we saw last year against the Mavericks, can these guys consistently hit other shots? They've improved as a 3-point shooting team. Dort has improved a lot, but I
Hmm.
don't know if it's reliable enough um, for the Thunder to have five of these role players who basically are just shooters and not even like elite shooters, just above average shooters.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Honestly, I think the Pacers have a chance to take game one because I think like they both J Dub and Chet have shown that they get spooked. And I just think like the way the finals are and like the massive media presence, there's a chance that the Thunder just come out, get spooked, and the Pacers can easily take game one because they have the only two players that have been the finals before in Aaron Nesmith and Pascal Siakam.
Mm.
Yeah, so that's our finals preview. We will be back after a short break. Okay, so now we're going to get into our question of the day segment. Today's question is, what would a ring do for each player's legacy? So first, I want to talk about some of the players that I think or anybody that we think would become like an instant Hall of Famer with a ring. Do you guys have anybody in mind? Because I do have a few people.
I think it's pretty obvious. I think Shea definitely has this in the bag if he ends up getting the chip.
I think I would agree. Uh, Carson, what about you?
Would
You
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 like to
you
add
you.
anyone to that list or just Shay?
Oh, I would, but I think we should talk about Shea first because I think Shea
Okay.
is the most interesting argument.
Well, I'm gonna say no to Shay. And
Hmm.
if Shay is in a Hall of Famer, then no one else on either team is a Hall of Famer.
Well, okay. Here's what I would push back on. Okay, I think Shea is a Hall of Famer, and my comparison for Shea would actually be Bill Walton. They've so far, okay, Bill Walton is an MVP, a two-time champion, a Finals MVP, a two-time All-Star, one-time first-team All-NBA, a one-time second-team All-NBA, two-time first-team All-Defense, and a Six-Man of the Year. Right? Shea, on the
Mm,
other hand, has an MVP, and pending this championship, he would be a champion, a Finals MVP, because there's just no chance the Thunder win and anybody else gets the Finals MVP. There's just no chance. He would be a three-time All-Star and a three-time first-team All-NBA. I would say that purely based off of accolades, Shea is more impressive. Shea's accolades are more impressive than Bill Walton's, right? Bill
mm,
Walton would have Bill Walton would have one more ring, but Shea would have one more All Star and two more first team All NBAs.
mm.
But Bill Walton would have a six man of the year and two more first team All Defenses. So I think that around evens out, if not Shea with a slight advantage on accolades. I think based purely off of that, uh, like Shea has a good argument into being in the Hall of Fame.
I think another thing to talk
Additionally,
about is yeah. You can go ahead. You first.
additionally, uh, for a player to have won MVP, led the league in scoring, won 68 or more games, and have been won the championship and Finals MVP, that has only been done one other time by Michael Jordan.
Mm. Okay, Ryan, would you like to
What do
add
you
to
have to
that?
say about that, Carson? No, no, that's fine. I think you leaked some of the points that I was going to talk about.
Okay. Well, I don't think the Hall of Fame is a numbers game. How many accolades you have, it's definitely a big criteria that you have to meet. Especially when you're comparing eras. Bill Walton
Hmm.
played 50 years ago, right? It's just completely
Right.
different. The bar for being a Hall of Famer was also just lower. And I think as the league gets older and older, the bar should increase. It should become harder, at least um, gradually. And I think we have seen that. We've been discussing whether or not Derrick Rose is a Hall of Famer
Hmm.
for the last half decade.
Right.
And
But Derrick
Derrick,
Rose
Ro-
doesn't have a ring. Derrick Rose does not have a ring. He does not have a Finals MVP. I think if Derrick
yeah,
Rose had a ring and a Finals MVP, we would not be having these kind of conversations. The answer would be a resounding yes, he should be in the Hall of Fame with an
we would.
MVP, ring, and Finals MVP.
Yes, but Derrick Rose also played a few more years after his MVP season, right? They weren't as great, right? He didn't continue to progress, but he still
Hmm.
had a few more good years. And even on the
Yes,
Timberwolves,
but
even on the Knicks, right?
Shea has had a few good years before his MVP season.
Well, yeah,
Derrick Rose does not have
certainly.
the two other. Derrick Rose does not have the two other first team All NBAs the way that Shea does.
Well, I also don't think Derrick Rose is MVP. I was just making a point that that is something that is very much being contended
Right.
and discussed, right? If Shea were to retire right after the season, right,
Hmm.
and they were to win a chip, he's had how many seasons in NBA? Like he was drafted in 2017,
Hmm.
2017. Yeah. He's only become a star in the last 3, 4 years, right?
Right.
He's been really good for 2 years, but that doesn't warrant a first ballot Hall of Fame
Well, we're
career.
not talking about first ballot. We're talking about
Well,
Hall of Fame.
when we're
You don't need to make
well,
it
then
first
Tony
ballot.
Kukoc is a Hall of Famer, second
Yeah,
ballot.
well, that's what I'm saying. What I'm saying is that Shea will make the Hall of Fame. It doesn't first ballot.
When
Obviously, I don't think anybody here is making it first. Actually, there is a guy I do think will make it first ballot, but we'll talk about that later. But I think Shea, yeah, obviously Shea is not going to make it first ballot. but
No, no,
like
no.
I do think he is a Hall of Famer.
Well, usually when you ask this question, just want to make a clarification. Usually when you ask this question, is this person going to be a Hall of Famer?
Hmm.
You're asking first ballot because the second ballot Hall of Famer is less common and it's like barely like I don't know. It's like barely counted as well. Just generally,
I
and
disagree
the
with that. A
community,
Hall
in
of
the
Famer
community.
is a Hall of Famer.
Well, literally, yes. Yeah. But when
Okay.
we're having discussions like this, right?
Hmm.
That's not the criteria you go by.
I guess
Second
that's
ballot
fair.
Hall of Fame.
But I'm just saying, like, this season alone
Hmm.
holds so much weight because if he is able to finish this off, that will be one of the greatest seasons in NBA history. Like, even Nikola Jokic does not have a season where he won MVP and Finals MVP.
Sure. Yeah.
So I think, like, this season alone, and this is not even just this season alone, along with his other first team All NBA seasons, like,
Hmm.
that is plenty to get him into the Hall of Fame. Like, if you think about Steph Curry, who we think of as like a surefire Hall of Fame, or not even Steph Curry actually, because he has so many other accolades. But Kevin Garnett, Kevin Garnett only has four first team All NBAs, and Shea has three.
Okay. Kevin Garnett is like an 18-time NBA All-Star. He's like a 10-time All-Defensive player. He's a
Well, yeah, but I'm just saying that like Shea is peaking just as well. Currently, his peak, I'd say, is just as good as Kevin Garnett's, if not better.
but it's not a peak for peak thing. It's a career, like your whole career. And his career just hasn't been that long.
But peak matters a lot.
Well, it certainly does. But he just hasn't had that long of a career, and he hasn't been that good for that long to warrant first ballot Hall of Fame. I
Okay.
think he certainly will be a Hall of Famer in 2 years, in
Hmm.
3 years, right? 3 years. He will certainly
Right.
get there. But right now, no.
Okay. Well, I don't think this debate is going anywhere. So I'll actually move
Yeah.
on to my next guy because I don't
Yeah.
think you guys have any more people that you think will be making the Hall of Fame.
No.
So I want to talk about Pascal Siakam. Okay. Because I think that if the Pacers win this finals, Siakam will probably be the MVP, like finals MVP. Okay. Because like this series is going to rely so much on him attacking mismatches that like if we win, it's pretty much like guaranteed to be him. So let me read you some of like what Siakam's resume will look like if that happens. He'll be a two-time champion, a Finals MVP, three-time All-Star, with a second-team All-NBA, third-team All-NBA, a most improved player, along with now this matters less, but he is also a G League MVP and a G League champion. Do you think now? Obviously, I don't think he'll be first ballot, but do you think this is enough to get him into the Hall of Fame, second ballot?
Second ballot Hall of Famer, potentially. I don't think there's any chance that if he were to retire after the season, he's a first ballot Hall of Famer. I like to read you a list of current all-time greats who aren't in the Hall of
Hmm.
Fame.
Right.
Um, Penny Hardaway,
Okay.
okay, three-time All-NBA selections, four-time
Right.
All-Star, has Olympic gold medal.
Hmm.
Joe Johnson, seven-time
Hmm.
All-Star, one-time All-NBA. Blake Griffin, although he could still make it, right? Very soon,
Well,
because he just
actually, I think that, but here's the thing. I think that if Siakam wins a ring and is finalist MVP, he passes Blake Griffin up. Because like just power forward, but for power forward like comparison, I think he will have had a better career than Blake Griffin. Blake Griffin, I don't think has ever made the conference finals.
no, I don't believe he has.
Exactly. Meanwhile, Siakam would have been a top two player on two different championship teams, as well as a finals MVP potentially.
Well, he was clearly the second best player with Kawhi and the Raptors, who had
But yeah,
that
he
team
was the
was
second
loaded.
best player.
That team was loaded.
Right. And
Um,
this time he's potentially the best player.
I mean, he was only one vote away. when him and Halliburton was going for the Eastern Conference Finals MVP.
Oh,
I think
really?
Halliburton should
He
have
only
won.
won.
They were only one
I
vote
also
away.
think I also think Halliburton should have won. But like Siakam definitely deserved it. He had 33 times. So
Okay.
like I think that like with this ring and a potential Finals MVP, that puts Siakam into the top five, not top five, top 25 power forwards of all time.
Mm.
And like I think he's if he wins a ring and a Finals MVP like right now, like he's guaranteed second or like a non-first ballot Hall of Fame entry. I think it's guaranteed.
Okay, so you talked about what he has. Let's also talk about what he
Right.
doesn't have. Okay, he doesn't have
Okay.
like any regular season MVP, or and he's never been named first team All NBA.
Right.
And and his career totals are pretty modest. They're not like anything that's like shocking. And he doesn't really
Yeah.
have that many like peak awards at the same time. So there's also a lot of stuff that he's lacking for him to be a really competitive Hall of Famer.
Well, yeah, that's why I'm saying he's not first team, but like not first ballot. But like I definitely think this is enough. Like Carson said, Tony Kukoc is in the Hall of Fame, second ballot, right?
Mm.
Like you think like if we take Pascal Siakam's resume and compare it, he has a better Hall of Fame case, right? And I think he has a better Hall of Fame case than both Blake Griffin and Penny Hardaway because the point of basketball is to win championships. That's why you play. That's the point of the NBA, right? MVP awards are nice. Those are nice. First team NBAs, nice. But the point of the NBA is you want to win rings. Okay. That's why we talk about Bill Russell so much. That's why we talk about Bill Russell more than we talk about uh, people like Jerry West, who arguably is better than Bill Russell at basketball. However, Bill Russell won 11 rings because that's the point of basketball. You're here to win championships. Now, obviously, there are players in the league who that is not their goal. And there's a reason why those players don't make the playoffs. But for serious NBA players, the goal of your career is to win championships.
Certainly, but the Hall of Fame is an individual
Right.
award or whatever you want to
And a
call it. Yeah.
championship shows that this individual was able to get it done when other individuals were not.
Sure. But I think the number one prerequisite is that you're good at basketball. Pascal Siakam is good at basketball, but has he ever been a top 20 player in the league? No.
I think
I don't.
yes, I do think he has been a top 20 player. He made second team All NBA. Second team All NBA means you are a top 10 player in the league that season. Maybe not top 10 with some other like other debates, but if you make a second team All NBA that season, you are for sure a top 20 player.
Ryan, would you say he's a top 20 player?
I don't know. I feel like he does
Not
not
currently.
play with
I don't
that
think
type
he's
of dominance.
currently, maybe not
Yeah.
currently, but I'm saying at one point he made second team All NBA, I believe it was the bubble year in 2020. Okay. He made second team All NBA.
Mm.
I would say that that year he was a top 20 player. In fact,
Oh,
I would say for every year that he was on the Raptors without Kawhi or
yeah.
like post Kawhi, I would say for every single year he was a top uh top 20 player and top 5 power forward. In fact, I'd
Okay.
say he's a top 5 power forward right now.
All right. Wait. Let me name a few more guys who aren't in the Hall of Fame.
Okay.
Jermaine O'Neal, three All NBA
Okay.
selections, six-time All-Star.
0 rings.
Yes. Zach Randolph, who
Mm-hmm.
who's really around the same level as Pascal Siakam.
Right.
Probably better.
Does he have a ring? Does he have a ring?
No, he doesn't have a ring. So that's holding him back.
Exactly. That's what I'm hearing right here.
Kevin
Like
Johnson,
all of these
five-time
people
All
are
NBA.
not. Does he have a ring?
No, he doesn't. But I think when we're talking about rings and their value of importance, we're talking about all-time greats, right? When it's someone like LeBron Michael Jordan, Bill Russell, Will Chamberlain. Then we have a conversation. Okay, who was the best player on a team that could win consistently, right? And win the most. But when you're the second best player on your team, or if you're like if you're Steve Kerr, right? Or
Hmm.
if like you win championships as a role player, cool. Like we respect that. You're a
He's
winner.
not a role
But that,
player though. He's the second best player on this team.
well, yeah,
He
but
will put,
he's the
and
second best player.
in this case scenario, he's winning Finals MVP.
I don't think he's winning Finals MVP, but if he does win Finals MVP, there's still like Jalen Brown, right? Jalen Brown
Right.
won Finals MVP,
Hmm.
won Conference Finals MVP.
Hmm.
Jalen Brown is not the best player on his team.
Okay. But
Yeah,
even then, he's the second best player on two different championship teams. And both of them are possibly like if the Raptors ring is one of the greatest runs in NBA history. Okay, greatest final runs in NBA history. Would you agree?
it was pretty cool. I
Yeah.
wouldn't say it's
And
greatest. No,
if I'm not saying it's the greatest either,
I'm not saying
but
it's one of
like,
the greatest.
okay, would you say
Mm.
if the Pacers win this year, would this be one of the greatest runs in NBA history?
Yeah, it would be.
Exactly. He would be the second best player on two of the best runs in NBA history.
No, I said the Raptors are not one of the best runs.
They beat the Warriors with KD and Steph.
Yeah, KD was injured, Clay was injured. No, no. They also, I think the Raptors that year just had a better team. We look back at our roster, right? Who did they have? They had Serge Ibaka, Marc Gasol, Norman Powell, Kyle Lowry, Danny Green, Pascal Siakam, Fred VanVleet, OG Anunoby. Like these are all players. Back then, we were like, we're not too familiar with them, right? Now we all know these players, right? And some of those players are already proven. Danny Green, right? Already
Hmm.
was yeah. So I don't know.
Let me give you a comparison for Pascal Siakam that I think is better than any of these that you brought up. Chauncey Billups. Okay. Without the ring, Chauncey Billups is another name that you would have read from that list that you have of players not in the Hall of Fame.
Yeah,
Okay. But because Chauncey Billups has a ring and because he has a Finals MVP, that is why he's in the Hall of Fame.
Chauncey Billups is also the best player on his team.
Right. But if you look at Chauncey Billups' career, he has two All NBA third teams, an All NBA second team, two All Defensive second teams, and five All Stars.
Yeah, which is more than Pascal Siakam could say.
Right. It is more than Pascal Siakam, but Pascal Siakam has another ring.
Yeah, okay. I don't think it matters that much when you're not the best player on your team, right? Like it's sure it's still nice to have, but as your ranking on your team like falls, the importance of the ring to your resume also falls, right?
I agree
Nobody
with that.
cares if
I
like
do.
Jeremy Lin won an NBA championship. Yeah,
That's true.
you're
Nobody would care.
exactly. So like,
Are you
uh,
kidding me? Are you kidding me? The Asian community would go bonkers. Okay? 11-year-old
no, no,
Carson
he
would have
won.
peed
He
in his
won.
pants.
He literally is an NBA champion, but like
Oh,
nobody
you know what?
cares.
I actually forgot about that. I
Yeah,
actually forgot
he
about
was
that.
on that Raptor squad, so it's
You're
like
right. You're right.
exactly, and you forgot. So like it
I did
doesn't
forget.
matter. It doesn't matter.
Yeah,
And
but
so yeah, he's the
he's the
second best
second
player. So
best player.
it does matter a
This
little
is not
bit.
like Jeremy Lin buried on the bench.
No,
Did
it
not
does.
play at all.
Well, it matters a lot more
This
than
is
Lin, but it doesn't matter
this is
as
the
much.
second best player on two different teams.
No, it matters more than Lin, but it's nowhere near someone who is also a Finals MVP like Kobe, who was also a Finals
Well,
MVP
obviously,
like
yeah.
LeBron. So like we talk about like Finals MVPs in history, right? We have people like Andre Iguodala, he's a Finals MVP. Jalen Brown, he's a
Right.
Finals MVP, right? Finals MVP is, I think everyone recognizes that it's not as big of an award as like even all the NBA first team, just in terms of what it means as a player and how good you are at basketball. It doesn't mean as much. It's really nice to be a winner, and that's That's a big part of sports, right? Winning. But
Yeah, it's
you're
the
you're
most
just,
important part of
you're the
sports.
second best player on your team. Um, no, just no.
Okay, okay. So what I'm hearing is that there's a discrepancy between how much you guys value winning the ring and winning the Finals MVP when it comes
Yeah,
to the conversation of being considered a Hall of Famer.
yeah.
So, you know, like just giving a rundown of the entire of your arguments, Carson and Joshua. Do you want to just go through the main reason why you think or you don't think that Siakam should be a Hall of Famer?
No, I'll give you another thing. We look at the Hall of Famers, right? And we can say, oh, so many of these NBA Hall of Famers don't have a ring, right? They're
Right.
in there because they're good at basketball. That's the number one thing. We talk about so many guys, James Harden, Steve Nash, Karl Malone, John Stockton, right?
Right. But we
These
also
things
have Kevin McHale and Robert Parrish.
who are also great players, right? Who are great
But they were
players.
they were never the best player on a championship team. And honestly, Robert Parrish did not have very good accolades. And we're
Robert
not
Parrish, Robert
Robert
Parrish played for
Parrish,
like 22 years in the NBA.
right.
Back then,
He did
that's
play.
like
He
that's
did play for
unheard of.
22 years.
Yeah.
That
He
is
has the
true.
record for most NBA games, I'm pretty sure.
But
NBA career games.
he wasn't even the second best player on a finals team. In fact, third best player is debatable.
They won. They were a dynasty, and he was a crucial part of that dynasty.
Right. 3 rings. 3 rings
Yeah,
as the third best player,
yeah,
arguably fourth some of the years.
yeah.
Pascal Siakam would have 2 rings as the second best player.
Well, if you're asking me who's the better player, Pascal Siakam, Robert Parrish, I think it's kind of close. I couldn't really tell you who
Right.
who who actually had the better career or who's the better basketball player. But like I said earlier, Parrish played 40 years ago. That era
Right.
was different. He was also part of a dynasty. Right? He also played the longest like NBA career ever. Right? So these things we have to keep in mind. Pascal Siakam, he's been nice, but so has like so many other players in this era. This era is
Yeah.
like
But
deeper than
but
yeah.
once again, he is separated by his rings.
But what you say, I think Pascal Siakam is more of a champion by circumstance than a champion by his own like prowess, his own basketball prowess.
I
Like when we think about
completely disagree with that.
we think about like
You know
someone
what?
like LeBron in 2016, right? I have I have my thoughts about LeBron, but that 2016 run, right? That is something that he did and he proved himself and he won because he's that guy, right? But Pascal Siakam, he won championships because he was with that guy or he was with a good team. He had some good circumstances and he's a pretty good basketball player, sure, you know?
I don't think either of
There's a
these
there's a
teams are
difference in that.
making the finals without Pascal Siakam.
Sure, but if you replace him, you could replace him with like I don't know, like because there are so many good basketball players right now. You could replace him with like Desmond Bain or like Jaren
Not a
Jackson Jr.
chance.
or like Kristaps Porzingis or like Derek White, Jaylen Brown. There's just so many guys you can go down the list in today's league that it doesn't matter that much anymore.
Okay. This debate is clearly not going anywhere. So let's get to my final player.
Okay,
Or
final
not,
play.
this guy is actually not a player. This is a
Okay.
coach. I think if Rick Carlisle gets a second ring, he's a first ballot Hall of Famer.
Oh, that's possible. Yeah, that's possible.
Because let me read you what he would be. He would be a 2-time champion. He'd be the
Yeah,
2002 Coach of the Year,
yeah,
2004 All-Star Game coach.
yeah,
He would be 11th all-time in regular season wins,
yeah,
10th all-time in playoff wins, and
yeah.
he would lead both the Pacers and the Mavs all-time in regular season and playoff wins.
Yeah.
That's it doesn't get more first ballot Hall of Fame than that. I think he would go down as I wouldn't say top 10 all-time coach because there are coaches with more rings, but he would definitely be a top 20 coach all time. I don't think there's much of a debate on that.
I think I would agree with that. I want to know how many coaches are in the Hall of Fame. Hold on, let me check that really quick.
There are many coaches in the Hall of Fame. Actually, right now, because
Hmm.
the Hall of Fame is for all of basketball, at
Hmm.
this point, basically any coach that has won an NCAA tournament is in the Hall of Fame.
Mm.
And I just think that Rick Carlisle's resume is just more impressive than theirs.
Mm. Mm. Yeah,
I
there's
agree with that.
a hundred coaches in the NBA,
Yeah, if
and
there are
not the
100
NBA,
coaches in the
not the NBA,
in the
the
Hall of
Hall
Fame,
of Fame. Yeah.
then Rick Carlisle is for sure a Hall of Famer.
Yeah. Okay, I agree with you.
Yeah.
Okay. Now let's talk about somebody who I think career with a ring would this player's career project towards the Hall of Fame? And I think there's only one player in this category. That's Tyrese Halliburton. With a ring and pending a healthy and just largely like steady success career, would you say Halliburton is a Hall of Famer?
I think his career right now is really looking similar to Chris Paul's career. So, do you think Chris Paul with the ring to make him a Hall of Famer like that?
Well, I think Chris Paul is a Hall of Famer without the ring.
Chris Paul's a Hall of Famer without the ring.
But
He
also,
is
I
one of
think
those
Tyrese
I think
guys.
Tyrese
I
is not
think
at Chris
Tyrese.
Paul's level yet.
But yeah, I also think that that's very disrespectful to Chris Paul because Chris Paul has
Yeah, that is
many
very
all
disrespectful.
defensive first teams
Yeah.
and many first team All NBAs. Meanwhile, Halliburton at his best, I think, could make a second team All NBA a few times.
Mm.
But he's just not like that. The way that Chris Paul is,
Yeah.
right?
I think that's his best
And
case scenario. So, as of right now, from
well, I
what
do
he
agree with
has right
that.
now,
I do agree
yeah.
with that. But I'm just saying, like, pending like a steady career, like let's say like five more All Stars, a few more deep playoff runs. Uh, I think this is probably the Pacers' best chance to win a ring. So if they don't win one now, I don't see them winning one.
Hmm.
So like it's just a few more deep playoff runs, like five or six more All Stars, like
Yeah.
maybe two more third team All NBAs and one second team All NBA. Would that put him in the Hall of Fame?
I think
Like with the
Tyrese,
ring this year.
he he certainly can make the Hall of Fame. Um, if I were to bet on it, would he be a first ballot Hall of Famer when his career is finished? Probably not. I think right now,
What
Shea,
about with the ring? With what about with the ring and Finals MVP?
like this year, right?
Yeah,
Yeah, I'd say
I
probably
think that
not.
would, yeah. What? You don't think he's gonna get it even with
you don't think
was
so?
it Finals MVP and the ring?
I think probably not.
Let me read you what it would what his career statistics would sound like. Okay, he would probably end in the top 10 all time in assists. I think that's very possible for him.
Hmm.
Okay, he would be a eight-time All Star, a four-time All NBA third team, one-time All NBA second team, a champion, and a Finals MVP, along with
Uh,
being the Pacers' all-time leading assists and possibly all-time leading scorer when it's all said
hmm.
and done.
Hmm. You
Would you
think
say he would be a Hall of Famer in that scenario?
if he's top 10 all time in assist,
Yeah.
if he's top 10 all time in assist, yeah, if I were to bet, I would say sure. I don't think he's going to be top 10 all time in assists, but
What about top
uh,
20 then? Because I think top 20 is like I think he's gonna do it pending like a healthy career.
top 20, I don't maybe, but
Okay.
that's not gonna push me towards yes, him making the Hall of Fame.
Okay. Final debate point before we're done for today. Would be would a ring make Shea or Halliburton the greatest Thunder or Pacer of all time?
Yes, to
For
both.
both? To
Yeah,
both.
yeah.
Interesting. I would say
Actually, no.
yes to
Actually, no,
Shea.
no, no. I no, no,
I
no.
would say
I
yes
no.
to Shea and no to Halliburton.
Wait. No, I'm reflecting on this. I'm reflecting on this.
Now,
No,
if
no,
if they
no.
both won and finished their careers with that team, I would say yeah, easily both of them are
Yeah,
probably going to
yes,
be the
yeah,
goats. But I would say if they retired with that ring, like they just won
yeah,
the ring in Finals
yeah,
MVP
yeah.
and just retired, I would say Shea would be the Thunder goat, but not Halliburton with the Pacers. I would say Halliburton would need a few more solid years to pass Reggie Miller.
Yeah. So actually, I said yes to both at first. I was wrong because I was kind of just assuming that, that's still up the team. But then if we take
Right,
the same idea, same concept as we did with the Hall of Fame, right? If they
right.
were just retired, their career is done, after the season, or they just go to some other team after the season and don't come back, then I don't know if either of them are the greatest in the franchise. Certainly, I don't think Tyrese Halliburton passes Reggie Miller. I don't think Shea passes Kevin Durant yet as well.
You don't think he passes Kevin Durant? I think he
Mm,
does,
no.
mainly because it's not just like on court stuff. It's like the way Kevin Durant left the team, and just like the way he betrayed the Thunder. And Shea,
Mm,
on the other hand, is bringing them like a championship that they were kind of robbed of because Kevin Durant left.
mm. Maybe I could see the argument there. But if Shea were to leave after this season, who's to say that won't be the same kind of betrayal? Maybe even worse.
But I don't think it would be Shea would have to join the Pacers for it to
Yeah.
be that level of betrayal.
Mm.
Ryan, what do you think?
Yeah, I agree with you on this one. I think Tyrese Halliburton still has a long way to go before he becomes the GOAT of the Pacers, but I think there is an argument to be made that Shea is going to be the greatest of all time for the Thunders. Just because of this winning culture that he's brought to the team. For the past like
Hmm.
2 seasons, they really just been the top two best teams in the league. And I think that itself and adding in another ring on top of his MVP careers on
Right.
the Thunders definitely makes him like I would say the greatest of all time on a team.
Now let me add a slight twist to the Shea one. What if we include the Seattle Supersonics? Would you say he is greater all time in that franchise's history than Gary Payton?
Yes. I think Kevin Durant is above Gary Payton.
Interesting. I think Gary Payton is above Kevin Durant.
Oh my, there's no way. I
What do
love
you mean
Gary
there's no
Payton,
way?
dude. He is not above Kevin Durant. You need to stop it. Kevin Durant,
Kevin Durant played with the Thunder for, I think, 8 years. Okay. Gary Payton was with the Seattle Supersonics for 12 years.
Kevin Durant he was drafted '07, right? So
Yeah.
'07,
And
'08, left after 2015, 2016.
yeah, that's 8 seasons. Is that not? Am I tripping?
Is that not nine?
Oh, that might be 9. You're right. But Gary Payton
Yeah.
still has 3 more seasons
Okay. 3 more seasons of what? Like, let's be real.
of all
Kevin
defensive
Durant.
first, all defensive first team, all NBA second team. There's all NBA first
Yeah.
teams mixed in here.
Yeah.
One of the like a run to the finals
Yeah.
against
Okay.
Michael Jordan.
Okay. Yeah.
It's basically the same as Kevin Durant without leading the league in
No,
scoring,
it's
but
no,
with
it's not
better
the same.
defense and without an MVP.
No, it's not the same at all. Kevin Durant is quite possibly the best basketball player we've ever seen. Just like how good he is at basketball, right? Don't don't care about like the accolades. Don't care about like any of the off-court things. Just how good are you at playing basketball? Kevin Durant
Hmm.
has an argument for being the best basketball player of all time.
Right. And
Gary
Gary Payton
Payton,
has an argument to be the best guard defender of all time.
yeah, certainly guard defender. Kevin Durant,
He
look, Kevin Durant in his prime, quite possibly the best two-way player in the league as well. Great defender, right? The best scorer by far, probably the best scorer in history. This man, what was it, like 4 scoring titles? Um,
Glaze is unreal. Oh my
Against
goodness.
prime LeBron, there was a genuine debate as to who was the best basketball player in the league, right? Which is we'll save this for next time when we talk about LeBron. But like in LeBron's prime, people were arguing Kobe or LeBron, and then people were arguing Kevin Durant or LeBron. Never happened for Michael Jordan. But Kevin Durant was going head to head with a prime LeBron James and was arguably better at certain points. So,
Okay.
yeah,
I will say you're probably right about that.
yeah. Gary Payton, come on, Gary Payton, he played the finals against MJ, but he was nowhere near. He was nowhere near. Let's stop it.
Okay.
Yeah,
Well, thank you all for listening today.
yeah.
We did get a little bit off topic with some tangents. But yeah, I hope you guys
Yeah.
enjoyed.
Mm,
Uh, yeah, that's it for today. Thank you guys.
thank you.